Alex here with a video on presidential immunity. This was another video that I got a lot of people asking me to do. And just like with my prior disclaimer, this is my objective analysis on what I think the government is trying to do. This is not my personal opinion of what they should do. This is not my personal opinion of whether I agree or not. This is just my analysis of what's going on and what I think they're trying to do, and that's it. And the thing that I think is most troubling about the immunity issue is that it's like becoming more about the person than it is about the issue, and this to me is a huge issue. Whether a president should be immune is a huge issue that is more, to me, overarching, abstract, and connected to the office. But to most people right now, it's connected to Donald Trump. And so I think that a lot of people want to make this about him, and this ruling, when it comes out, is going to be about anything but him. I mean, it's going to be about him for the moment, and then he's going to be, out of the limelight or whatever. And then the question of immunity is going to control for who knows how long, for who knows how many presidents going forward. Hopefully, this is what's going on in court. Hopefully, I mean, I imagine that's typically the way that judges look at things, is they follow the statutes, rules, and case law, but there's sometimes exceptions and sometimes errors occur. Um, so I know that the issue of immunity is very different in other countries. Some get civil immunity, some don't. Some get criminal immunity, some don't. Some get immunity only while they're in office, and then once they're out of office, they can be sued. Some of them get immunity not only while they're in office, but even out of office. After they've left office, they get immunity for any decisions that they made while in office. They have a lot of pros and cons on both sides of this. Pros and cons being, one of the obvious cons is somebody could do things that are criminal on purpose, knowing they can't be prosecuted. One of the obvious pros is somebody can make decisions as a president, knowing that they won't have to worry about their political opponents going after them after they leave office. So the policy on both sides makes sense. So really, it's going to come down to, they're going to go through what I imagine would be the Constitution and review the Constitution and determine whether or not immunity applies. The real thing that I think is fascinating most people is, of course, that it's Donald Trump, but I think also that it's not been answered before. That does surprise me. I would have thought that this question would have been answered a long time ago. Apparently, no. The civil, like suing them civilly, yeah, that's been answered, but this is the first time, apparently, that a president's been prosecuted. And so now, in 2024, they have to decide whether or not he's immune. The other thing I was going to mention is that I guess there's a debate about whether to resolve this question now or after a trial. I've seen that before. I've seen that before a lot. Usually, what I'll see is the Supreme Court, at least in Nevada, the appellate courts, they'll want to wait. They'll want to just let the whole thing unfold, let the jury make a decision, and then after all of the work is done, then they'll look at the entire case, not just that one issue, and then they may end up deciding, yep, he was immune, so everything else is invalidated. And then they'll usually like publish an opinion, and it'll control going forward. In this situation, there's this sort of what do they call it? There's this argument that you can make that usually, and I don't think it applies here. Well, maybe it does. Usually, when they argue that they want an appellate court to get involved right now, it's because there's no questions of fact. There's just pure questions of law. And so it kind of justifies this idea that you can just do, some appellate review right now because there's no facts for you to look at. You're just looking at law and that's it and nothing else. In this situation, what adds on to that is that it's likely to strengthen the power of that immunity. And I've seen them do this before where other immunities come into play. They have like qualified immunity and stuff, or there's debates about that right now, but the whole basis or the whole point of having immunity is to kill the lawsuit very quickly, not to just like run through the entire thing, spend all the money, and then get the relief in the end. And so if they're applying this immunity like they apply all the other immunities, it'll make a lot of sense for them to just make the decision right now. And if former president loses, then they will go and review it immediately. Otherwise, it's like I mentioned, guys, it just defeats the purpose of even having immunity if you have to go through the whole lawsuit anyway. It does two things. Number one, you win the case, but number two, you win it quickly. So anytime one of these situations arises, typically that's what will happen. So I imagine that they're not going to wait. Even though the other side is saying they should just go through the trial, most likely they won't. Most likely they'll answer the question of whether or not he's immune, and then they'll allow further appellate review, and they'll probably stay the criminal prosecution. That's probably what they'll do. I guess that's all I've got for you guys. I'm interested to see what comes of this because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, whatever does come of this, it will apply to all the presidents going forward, not just him. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.